Next slide, we start to explore and understand the impact of trauma. So trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, which can be something like an accident, a crime, a natural disaster, physical or emotional abuse, of neglect as a child, or as an adult, experiencing or witnessing violence, the death of a loved one, war and conflict. And of course, there are many more versions of incidents that can cause this kind of emotional response. So there's a short video here attached. This is a video that here's from Bessel van der Kolk, who is the author of the book The Body Keeps the Score. This is a sort of foundational book that really is trying to speak to a more holistic way of understanding trauma and how we might support individuals to navigate these experiences. I would like learners to then reflect on some of the ways that trauma might affect young people in the communities you work in. How could your organization create a safe space for these young people to be able to navigate this trauma and to avoid re-traumatization? So the experience of that coming up again for them. So the next slide as well, we have another video. This is from another key voice in the world of trauma and support. So this is a video from Dr. Gabor Mate discussing the 7 impacts of trauma and how we see that show up. So we'll have learners also watch this video as well. Next, we have a slide that looks a little bit more focused into survivors of sexual violence and sexual trauma. So I've here put a trigger warning. I would like to warn individuals of the kinds of stories that are being told in this because we want to make sure we aren't causing any harm as a result of them going through this section. I think we'll maybe want to as well, I guess, not make this mandatory in some way, allowing individuals to sort of bypass it if they feel like it will be difficult, but we still want them to click on it. So I would appreciate some advice on that from the team. So the first video is a video of survivors of sexual violence telling their stories. The video covers individuals who are based in Singapore, but they are nonetheless very relatable or realistic stories that we might expect in other contexts. There's also a written story here on this website from the organization RAIN. And then I've created some discussion questions that I think we could create a discussion board of some kind, or at the least have maybe a way for folks to input to these questions while they're going through. So I'd like to hear about how hearing these survivors' stories shifted their thinking on survivors of gender-based violence or other sort of experiences of safeguarding. What's a key takeaway from Catherine's story that you could use to better support young people that might be facing harm directly or indirectly as a result of their participation in Going Beyond? Catherine's story discusses elements of re-traumatization and her experience coming forward and reporting something and that not being necessarily positive. So that question is aimed at trying to understand how our systems and approaches can be so important in that person's experience.